Good morning, Instagram. I am Cpl Mark Lloyd, and welcome to today's Instagram live session. It's more of a question and answer session, really. I'll just explain quickly how it's going to work. So there's going to be 4 of us, and we are all from different instrument categories. I'm a clarinet and violin player myself, so I can help answer some of those questions. But we'll briefly talk about what we've done ourselves and some of our experiences so far. As a clarinet and violin player myself, I didn't actually join playing either of those instruments, actually. I was a euphonium and cello player before I joined up, but the need just really wasn't there for euphonium players. There were about 6 or 7 in training, actually, when I joined up, but there was a real need for clarinet and violin players. So on my audition, they, as many of you probably already know, they audition you on different instruments, and you just give it a go, get assessed by the professors, and it's good to see you all joining. Hi. And yeah, they see how you get on, and then if you're suitable, then you get accepted on those instruments. And a question that I get asked quite a lot is, how did you go from being a youth player to a clarinet player, and how difficult was it? And it was tricky. But the best thing about being at the school and about being at the Royal School of Music is the professors that are there to help you. You get, these guys and girls are some of the best at their job. They teach many people, many hours. They're professionals, and they really know how to sort of get the best out of you. I had the added advantage of the clarinet professor at the School of Music, Julian Wheeler. He used to be in the band service, actually, so that was a massive help for me. And he understands the job, and sort of things like parade band, those aspects he knew fully well. So he was very easy to sort of help out with the little bits that I needed help with. So yeah, you get about an hour a week on each instrument, which is sort of that's a good amount of time, and you have many hours in the day to practice, and then you sort of have orchestra, wind band rehearsals, and that kind of stuff as well. So you get assessed as well regularly, so you have instructors that are from the band service, and they help you keep on track and are there if you need any help. Some brief experiences really about my career and where I've been. I've been to many places. I've been quite lucky, actually. I went to Scotland Band when I passed out of training, and within I think 2 weeks I was in Washington, and then we went to Berlin shortly after that, and then I've been to Switzerland, Belgium, Germany, South Korea, which was a great trip, Russia, Chile. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the places that we go, and some great venues we play at, like the Albert Hall, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really varied career. I joined in 2008, so yeah, 12 years ago, and it's gone by very quickly. So let me just see if there's any questions. Do feel free to just pop a question in whenever you like, and I'll try and answer it. I'll explain who's going to be on after me as well. So I'm for 15 minutes, and then it's musician Hannah Smither, who is a vocalist and a percussionist, and then after her it's a bassoonist called Joel Madden, and then finally you've got Cpl Joley Gardiner. So they're the people. So let me just have a quick look. Do you enjoy your secondary roles in addition to playing? So Stuart Mills, hi. We do indeed. So we have a medical role on the hospital ship, RFA Argus. So when we go on there, we handle casualties, and then we also get assigned to a department. So when I was in Scotland, and when I was sort of spent a bit of time in Collingwood, we went on the Argus a fair few times, and you go on, you get assessed, and it's a great way actually of expanding your knowledge, and it's a great way of actually meeting other people and sort of really exploring that aspect of the job, which is great. I know people that have been on deployments, and they've had a great time, and it's a massive asset to the military as well, because we go on and we don't just provide music, we provide support in many different ways. A good question, actually. Let's see if there's any more. So Rebecca Brown, I'm joining next year, great, and live in Scotland. Do you think that you don't do as many gigs as Scotland Band? So Scotland Band, good question. Obviously we're not doing any gigs at the moment because of the situation. But when I was in Scotland, we did quite a lot of gigs actually. You do a lot of parades, and you do a fair few concerts. But we travel quite a lot as well actually in Scotland band. Like I said, when I was there, the first week we were off to America. So the trouble with Scotland band I found was when we do gigs, they're often not local, so you spend a lot of time travelling. So if you love being on a bus, and you love, it's great because you get to spend time with people that you work with. So, but yeah, gigs are sent to HQ, and then depending on what their location, they get sort of sent out to each band. So that's kind of how it works, really. It's not really the band's choice where the gigs go. It just depends on the location. Let's see if there's any more questions. Hi everyone, I can see everyone joining and waving. So someone asked me the other day actually, I'll just talk about it quickly. Do you get opportunities to go on adventure training? Which a lot of people do actually, and I've been very, very lucky. I've managed to go on adventure training for, I think, almost every year that I've been in. Actually, yeah, I've been very lucky, like I say. And those that don't know, adventure training is it's something that the Navy provide for you, and it gives you the opportunity to go away as a group and do some kind of team building. So some of the ones that I've been on, for example, have been in Wales. So you do whitewater rafting, you go mountain biking, those kind of things, and really build sort of team ethos, and it's all funded. One of the best ATs that I've been on was actually a trip we went to Hawaii, me and two of the guys that were in the band, and we did kayaking and surfing, and went to Pearl Harbor, did all that kind of stuff, and that was sort of partly funded by the Navy, and obviously some personal contribution as well. So that was a great experience actually, and something that is a definite highlight of my career. So another question I've just seen pop up. How did learning a string instrument compare to brass? So hi Amy. So learning a string instrument was tricky. Especially I think a string instrument is something that you have to learn when you're very, very young. But obviously we have guys that pick it up when they're 18 to, in their 30s. So for me, it wasn't too tricky because I had a bit of knowledge with cello. So transferring some of that knowledge, was kind of handy. But like I say, with the professors that are at the School of Music, and with the amount that you're actually in your cell practicing, all of a sudden you kind of forget that you're learning it from scratch. After about, obviously you're getting continually assessed by your instructor, and they're making sure you're on track, and if you ever need any help, you can speak to them, and then if they can't answer your questions, they then ask the professor. So it kind of works really well actually. It was tricky, but yeah, like I say, the time flies, and it's actually very rewarding, And the best thing about learning an instrument from scratch, from my experience, is it's hard to develop bad habits, because the amount of people that help and see you when you're playing these instruments, they can pick up bad habits straight away, and because you learn it from scratch, you kind of break out of it a lot easier than, say, for example, if you learn, the clarinet for 12 years before you join up, you could have a lot of bad habits, and it's harder to undo them when they're more ingrained. So that's a real benefit, I think, of learning a new instrument. That's a good question. Let's just have a little look. So a question from Ray Collins. Do you think gigging will change greatly when allowed to resume? I think so. Yeah, I think we actually, Portsmouth Band, have some gigs, in July. So we go back in a couple of weeks, and one of them is in London, and it's a joint one with the Army, and that's on Horse Guards Parade. And obviously social distancing will be in place. And I think a lot of bands have changed the way that they counter march, so you're not kind of walking past each other. But now that the distancing has been relaxed a touch, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I mean, we're just going to find that out once we get back to work. But yeah, definitely an interesting time to be gigging outside. Look, another one from Will S. Rates, just joined the feed. Did an audition on. What were the auditions like on the new instruments? Okay, so yeah, good question. So when I joined, I was auditioned on clarinet, trombone, violin, cello, euphonium, I had a piano audition as well, and yeah, that was it. And the idea is you know, they see if you can make a sound, they see how well you adapt to that instrument, also physically as well. So when I had my trombone audition, I'm not the tallest of people, so but I had the mouthpiece position because I play euphonium, and I couldn't actually reach that. Is that 8th position? I think it's 8th position. Yeah, I couldn't reach that, so that was a no-no for me, unfortunately, because I love the trombone. So yeah, it kind of works on a potential kind of basis, and if you're just not suited, then you know you find that out very, very quickly. Let's have another look. And another one from Stuart Mills. What's your favourite ensemble to play in? Do you partner with Big Much Man? Good question. So I love doing the mass band gigs. I think they're the ones that I look forward to. So for some of you that don't know, we do a gig every year at the Albert Hall called the Mountbatten Festival of Music. And that's when we get the mass bands of the Royal Marines and we all play together in a concert. And it's, you know, it's normally attended by thousands of people. It's a great feeling being on that stage. You know, it's a huge venue. That's a very rewarding gig to do, actually. But I also enjoy all the smaller ensembles as well. So the string quartets, I've done some of those on the Victory, HMS Victory, and some other ones. I did one in Washington as well, which is very rewarding. So yeah, it's a real mixture, and that's what I love about this job, is that one day you're doing a concert and the next day you're doing a string quartet or a jazz gig somewhere. So it's great, and some of the marching band gigs as well have been huge. You know, being on Horse Guards Parade and playing we did the Rugby World Cup final. We did that. That was great. That was a great gig at Twickenham. So yeah, we did a few rugby games in Scotland as well. So that's been great. So I mean, all the gigs are really varied, and you get a lot of feelings depending on the ensemble. So they're all very, very different, which I like. Would you recommend joining the service at 16 or wait until 18? That's from C Roke 202. So I joined when I was 18. I knew that I wanted to join when I was about 16, 17, but I was doing my A-levels. And I mean, it totally depends on what you're after, really. I mean, the band service pay for absolutely everything, so you can join at 16 with you get paid. You get paid for all your training, they pay for your degree, which I was lucky enough to do. It just depends what you want to do, really. I mean, I waited till I was 18 just to do my levels first, so I had a plan B, but you don't necessarily have to. I mean, 2 people that I joined at 16, and they had a great experience, and they've had a great careers. So it's quite a big age range, actually. I know there's a guy in training who joined a bit later on in his late 20s, and it's a real mix, which is actually great. Let's have a little look again. Rebecca Brownlie, hi. How many big band gigs would you say you get putting lockdown aside? So big band gigs, they have quite a lot, actually. Big band's quite a popular ensemble, and most concerts we have a big band set, so they will come on for about 15-20 minutes, do a couple of numbers, and then the concert band will come back. But isolated on their own, they do work quite a lot, actually, and a lot of them get a lot from doing the big band gigs because they're more intimate, and they're really enjoying the music that they're playing. And a lot of the times they're arranged and written by people in the band, so they're playing their own music sometimes, so it's probably very, very rewarding for them. Good question. I've got about a minute left, so I'm going to quickly do one more. Hi Jess Wood, I am auditioning on clarinet and sax next week. Great. If I was taking on new instruments such as bassoon, would I have the opportunity to play in jazz or dance bands still? Good question. In training, probably not, because your focus would be on bassoon. However, I know clarinet players that play saxophone in big band and that sort of thing, so having other instruments, that skill can be utilised. So it's a definite possibility. Certainly from my experience in the band, that has been the case. I've not known a bassoon player play saxophone though, so I could be wrong. If any of you ask have any questions about recruiting, on the recruiting side of things, there's a Q&A session with Corporal Amy Phillips, and that's about 12 o'clock. So that's my time done. Unfortunately, that went really quickly. So you've got musician Hannah Smither next, who is a vocalist and percussionist, and she'll sort of answer your questions if you have any questions to her. So it's been awesome. Thanks for having me, and I'll see you soon.
Good morning, Instagram. I'm Lance Corporal Joley Gardiner, and I'm a euphonium and cello player in Scotland Band. Sorry for musician Joel Madden going over. Hopefully I can answer some of your questions in the next 15 minutes, but after me we will have Corporal Amy Phillips, who is our specialist recruiter, who can answer lots and lots of questions for you. So just a bit of background about me. I joined up in 2013, straight out of school, and I used to play the flute, and I also used to play the tuba as well in brass band, and I was also a vocalist at school as well. And I went through the audition process and was auditioned on every kind of instrument you can think of: bassoon, cello, bass, clarinet, French horn, oboe, you name it. I tried to play it. And then at the end of my audition, I was offered euphonium and cello, which I was really, really happy about, because I've always loved the euphonium and cello. I've always wanted to play them. So I went through training, and then I passed out in September 2016, and I was sent to RM Band Scotland for my first draft, which is very close to home because I'm from Scotland. A year after that, I was sent to RM Band Portsmouth for a bit, and then I came back up to Scotland Band in April 2018, and I've been there ever since. So I'll try and answer some questions as I go along, but until I get some coming in, I'll just chat away about my experiences in the band service so far, and what it was like to learn 2 new instruments from scratch, and that whole process, and how I was kind of supported through that. So obviously I joined up straight out of school. I was 17. I just finished school. I'd applied to uni and everything. I'd been on an acquaint course, which gave me a really good insight into what the band service was like, gave me an opportunity to talk to people who were in the band service. And there's more information about the Look at Life courses on the website, and Corporal Amy Phillips can probably answer some questions about them as well. And it also gave me an insight into the kind of fizz I needed to be doing and how fit I needed to be for my audition. After my Look at Life course, I said, thanks, that was great, but I'm not interested. And went back home, and I'd applied for uni, and then at some point in the next few months, I kind of changed my mind. It kind of piqued my interest a bit. I was really curious about it. So I went back and I did my audition. Ooh, I've got a question. What was your practice regimen like? How did you split your time between 2 instruments? That's a great question, actually, because I was just going to get onto the fact that training is very, very busy. So when you get back to the school and you are learning your instruments, you have professor lessons every week. So you'll have an hour with each professor, depending on how many instruments you play, once a week. And that's not just it. So in the program, you do fizz as well. You do parade band, because that's a massive part of our job, and you have to start from somewhere learning that. And any combination that your instrument's involved in. So I was thrown into string quartets when I've been playing the cello for about 5 weeks. And that was a really steep learning curve, but I loved it. Concert band, brass 10. I did vocal combinations as well, so I did function band too, and all that kind of business. And then on top of that, you do academic lessons to improve your music theory and get you to a kind of minimum standard before you pass out. Another question I saw there, do euphonium players play the fanfare trumpet? Yes, we do. We do play the fanfare trumpet, and I did it very recently. So on MFM this year, I played fanfare trumpet. We generally play the tenor trumpet, and so do trombone players. But sometimes youth players can play the bass one as well, along with tuba players too, which is It's fun. It's a completely different experience to playing the euphonium normally, and the best gig to do fanfare trumpet on is definitely MFM. So I did that this year, and it was a wonderful experience. That's the third time I've done it on fanfare trumpet, actually. I'll just look at a few other questions. Yeah, the Look at Life course is like a kind of work experience course. So I did it, I was still at school, but you know, I'm fairly certain when I did it anyway, that you could do it from the age of 15. So you could do it when you were still at school and you were thinking that the band service might be a good career path for you, but obviously your mind might not be completely made up yet. So I was very unsure when I went on my Look at Life course, and even afterwards I was still unsure, and I said I probably didn't want to, but it obviously changed my mind somewhere down the line. Question from Hayden. How often would the band travel to different locations for concerts? So I'm in RM Band Scotland, and we are based in Rosyth. And we do a lot of travelling to our gigs. So last year, me and some other guys in the band went as a brass 10 to Orkney to commemorate the scuttling of the German fleet. It was a wonderful gig, and Orkney is a wonderful place. I would 100% recommend going there whenever you can. But we spent a lot of time on the coach. It took hours and hours, like 6 hours to get to Thurso, then ferry, and then just travelling all over the place. We did public duties in London and Windsor last year, and we have to get coaches down for that. And a lot of the time when we do concerts in places like, for example, we did concerts in Salford a couple of months ago. We were meant to do concerts in Ulverston. When Scotland Band come down to take part in MFM at the Royal Albert Hall and other mass band events that are generally based in Portsmouth or London, we're on the coach, we're going down. We went to Belgium a couple of years ago to commemorate the raid on Zeebrugge, and we had to get on the coach, go all the way down to Hull, go on an overnight ferry, and then after the gig was done, we drove the whole way back. We got the Channel Tunnel and we drove the whole way back to Scotland from Belgium. So you get very used to life on a coach. So kind of sticking back to the learning two instruments from scratch, you do get lots of support in training from your profs. They're very, very experienced. My profs are both in the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, and your instructors are generally very experienced people as well. Sandyman23, have you met any famous people? Yes, I have actually. So I did the Festival of Remembrance, the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance a couple of years ago. Wonderful gig. Got to meet Alfie Boe. He was really, really nice. Got to have a picture with one of the Spice Girls as well, and Emily Sandé. And I've done quite a few gigs for Royal Week in Scotland, where the Queen and some of the royal family come up to Scotland and do various things. They have the garden parties, and we met the Duke of Edinburgh at one of the garden parties, which I believe was one of his last kind of public, appearances that he did before he kind of stood down from public life. So that's a really cool thing. I don't think I'll ever forget that. Yeah, and I did the D-Day 75 commemorations last year, which was a tri-service orchestra, and that was just incredible. All sorts of heads of state there on the stage with us, and other famous people like Sheridan Smith as well. I got to have a chat with her, and she was proper nice and properly supportive of the armed forces and really enjoyed performing with us. So that was a really good experience. Other gigs I've done, so I have been abroad with the band service. I have been on a trip to Bahrain, which was to open a naval support facility out there, which was just great because I've never been to any kind of countries in the Middle East, and it was just a really good experience. I don't think I would get outside of this job. I've been to Belgium a couple of times, I've mentioned that. I've been to Cyprus to do some naval Trafalgar Night commemorations, and that was a really, really good trip. But most of the gigs I've done in the UK, and a lot of them have just been fantastic. The Edinburgh tattoo I did a couple of years ago, and I was meant to do it again this year, but obviously COVID happened. Question: how did you find IMT? Did you feel that it built your confidence a lot? So IMT was a bit of a roller coaster for me. I ended up with an injury about halfway through, and I had to be back trooped, and I had to redo it the next year. So I think it does build your confidence a lot. I was completely kind of inexperienced with anything to do with the military when I joined up. I hadn't been in cadets. No one in my family had been in the military, so I didn't really have any military ties to the band service. So I didn't actually know an awful lot about it when I kind of started going through the process, and I certainly didn't know anything about military training or what that would be like. But in a way, I think that may have been better, kind of like a blank slate to just learn everything, which also then helps when you go back to school and you might be learning 2 new instruments, because, you know, that's a blank slate ready to do with as they will and to shape you into a Royal Marines musician when you pass out. So it was a really character building, to sound really cheesy, a character building experience. And even though at the time it wasn't, I wouldn't say fun all of the time, but it was a really good experience for me to go through, and I'm glad that I did it. Sorry, back trooped means that the next year you go through with the next troop to complete your military training. That's what it means. What is part of the fitness test? So, I mean, when I did the fitness test, it was different. I'm fairly certain it is being updated now, but Corporal Amy Phillips can answer questions like that for you afterwards, because she's got all the up-to-date information on the current audition process and fitness requirements and musical requirements as well. So just another couple of opportunities I've had in the job. They still fund you to do things. So in training, I did ABRSM exams. I didn't have to pay for them. The band service paid for them. So I did grade 5 and 6 cello. I did grade 8 euphonium. Afterwards as well, they still fund you to have lessons. So I'm currently having vocal lessons, because I sometimes do vocals in Scotland Band. I've done function band, big band, concert band, and I absolutely love doing it. And I get to have vocal lessons because of that, which is really, really helpful. And I can't imagine someone paying for my vocal lessons in anything else. I also have euphonium lessons because I'm working towards a diploma ABRSM. So you can still kind of work on your own personal development, even while working, while getting paid, which is great. I mean, I just think that's great, and it's a hard thing to find anywhere else. A Drinkwater 1. Did they buy you a cello? Yes. So the band service provides you with your instruments. I have my own cello, and it's really nice. I love it. It's a really nice cello, and my euphonium is really good as well. And considering, especially for brass instruments like the euphonium, my euphonium new probably would have cost close to about £5,000. So, and string instruments as well, good quality string instruments, you're definitely looking at a few thousand there. So that's just a wonderful thing that they provide those for you, and you take care of them and you clean them, and if they break, they fix them. And if you want a new one, you can request to have a new one, or have a look at what they have, and that's just great. Have you done a lot of sports in the band? I personally haven't done any like Royal Navy or Royal Marines sports, but when you're in training and when you're in a band, there's like a big focus on fitness and working together as a group and team building. So you do lots of, we always have sessions every week where we do group sports together, and we have inter-band sports competitions as well. Like there's one called the Montague Cup, which is an inter-football competition between all the bands for the guys, and there's the Best Cup, which is for the girls. And there's other sporting events that we do, and lots of opportunities for grassroots sport as well. And more recently this year, I went to the Navy Ski Champs in Tignes in France. I've never skied before in my life. It's also obscenely expensive if you're paying for it yourself. But I managed to go and have a whole week, beginner ski lessons, package, equipment provided for me, nice accommodation, and I think in total I spent maybe about £500, maybe, and then some of that you claim back. So that's just incredible, and that was a really great experience. What age did you join, and what was that like? So I joined when I was 17. Obviously, I did education in Scotland, and the age cut-offs for school years are slightly different. So I'd finished my my A-levels, Scottish equivalent hires, by the time I was 17 and a half. So I finished school, I had university places, I then changed my mind, I turned them down, and I joined the band service in September. Right, so that's me at the end of my time now. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks for listening to all the other guys. If you've got any more questions about joining up, recruiting, auditions, fitness, anything else, then Corporal Amy Phillips will be on after me to answer all of those questions. So, bye everyone.
Hello everyone. I am musician Joel Madden, and I'm a bassoon player at Her Majesty's Royal Marines Band Scotland. And I'll be talking to you for the next 15 minutes or so about training so far. I joined up in 2015, and that was the year I first sort of heard of the Royal Marines Band Service. I had no family history in the military or anyone in the band service, but luckily through playing music around the Manchester area growing up, I made friends, and one of whom was in the Royal Marines Band, and that's how I first heard about the Royal Marines Band Service. And after my Phase 1 training at Lympstone, December, during my pass-out parade, was the first time I actually saw a Royal Marines Band on my own pass-out parade, which I think is quite rare and quite funny. So yeah, I had a lucky 2-week process of going to my AFCO in Manchester, joining up, and within 2 weeks all my medical tests were through and I was down to Portsmouth for my audition. On my audition I was tested on clarinet, tuba, euphonium, percussion, oboe and bassoon. And as a guitar player and a bass player, I was new to sort of reading music. I had little to no experience. I mainly read tab out in the bands that I'd play in for the past 5 years before that, around the north west of England. And I really liked the bassoon, and I said that to a few of the different instructors. It was something very strange. The finger holes are quite wide apart, so having slightly bigger hands than normal, I preferred the bassoon to the oboe. And yeah, after that week long audition, I got accepted on bassoon. And with double reed instruments such as oboe or bassoon, you also have to learn a percussion element for parade band. So like my colleague before, musician Hannah Smither, as a percussionist, myself being a double reader and percussionist will share the cymbals and bass drum on parade. So even though it's a solo category, bassoon and oboe, you also have to learn that parade element for marching. So throughout training, you learn these alongside each other. We have a question coming. Let's see what this says from Will. Did you do much music theory before getting into music school, and if not, how did you find learning that? Good question. So no, I had very little knowledge on music theory, but luckily at the start of Phase 2 training, I was thrown at the deep end. Here's your instrument, this is going to be your best friend for the next 2 years and 8 months, and also you'll have at least 3 academic lessons every week. So that was really good to have everything thrown at you, have a structured educational system really, and I felt like for me in training I was lucky. Everything was at my pace, providing I was putting the effort in, and it will be one of the civilian professors that will come in and teach you your academic lessons. For me it was the flute professor that was my academic instructor, and my bassoon professor, who really helped me tremendously throughout training. She put me forward for graded exams, so I did my grade 4 bassoon exam after a few months of being at the school, and then a few terms later I had to do my grade 5 musical theory. So after being at the school for just between a year and 2 years, I was ready for my grade 5 musical theory exam, which then helped me progress and enable me to do my grade 8 exam on bassoon, which was in my final term at the School of Music. Some more questions have come in now. From George, hi, are all instruments provided? Woodwind, brass? Yeah, all instruments are provided for. But a lot of band members do use their own instruments. They might have a very expensive one or one which they just like the sound of more for the one that they provided. But yeah, I had a fairly old bassoon to start with, and then the band service ordered 3 brand new ones, and I was lucky enough to grab one of the brand new ones for my last 2 terms of training, my last sort of 8 months or so. And I've still got that instrument now, so I'm on the second instrument that I've asked for straight out of the band service stores. Was 3 years enough for you to learn a new instrument, in my opinion? Yeah, so when I was struggling, my bassoon instructor and professor could tell a mile away if I was struggling on my instrument, and they would tell me the best things that would help aren't even musically related. Things like having the right attitude, the right mindset, and also being very socially active with your friends. You're going to make the best friends throughout training because you're spending them hardships together, and just keep a right balance, keep your head straight. And I thought, well, there's been a lot of people that have joined up on bassoon before me and they've made a career out of it. Why can't I? And I felt a bit disadvantaged having little to no musical experience, music theory experience. But yeah, it's a long old slog, 2 years and 8 months, but it's ample time to get to the standard required. And for my final exam, passing out of the school, I had to do sort of grade 8 standard pieces of music with 1 grade 7 piece stuck in the middle for variety. But yeah, it was good to have my grade 4 and grade 8s as a target to push for, which were my ABRSM grades out of the School of Music. So I'd go to somewhere else in Portsmouth and sit them exams with their own ABRSM instructors, and that's a certificate I can then take with me to Civvy Street if I choose to leave the job. Let's see if there's any more questions. Do you have a band service off a master's degree? As far as I understand, yes. That's a question from Mark Lloyd, thank you. So the degree, as far as I'm aware, is a bachelor's honours music degree, but there is opportunity to go further and do a master's degree. But you have to then put a bit of financial aid towards that, money out of your own pocket, but still absolutely dirt cheap compared to what you would pay normally for a master's degree. Any more questions? Do you still get to play guitar? Good question, thank you, Amy. So I've been very lucky. Obviously training was focused on my parade side of bass drum and cymbals and bassoon, of course, but at the end of each year we have a Guildhall concert for the troupe that's passing out, and for the troupe that passed out before me in 2017 I went to that concert to play bassoon, then picked up my guitar to play one piece of music. It was the James Bond medley, and then cymbals outside for the beat and retreat. And then the next year, 2018, for my pass out, I was on bassoon again and guitar. That year we played the Queen medley, and then I put my guitar down, picked up my bassoon to play the rest of the concert, and then I was on bass drum that year for my own pass out beating retreat, and that was the last time I played as a trainee at the Royal Marine School of Music. Another question here. Is it 3 years or 2 years and 8 months? So in total it's 3 years of training. Phase 1 at Livingston Commando for me was 4 months, September till December 2015, and then 2016 January onwards until August 2018. So that's 2 years and 8 months of phase 2 musical training for me. But yes, 3 years in total. Can you study A-levels while in the service, or would you recommend getting these first? Thanks for the question. I did my A-levels first in music production, so that was working in a music studio for recording, and there's quite a lot of DJing and learning about the musical industry, not so much playing in my course. But there are definitely opportunities within the job to have your courses, whatever they are, enrolled for, providing you have free time and paid for. So yes, we, alongside music training for me, we did musical industry understanding, and we got a BTEC out of that, providing we did a few essays. And I recently, early last year, I did my driving course and had a lot of that paid for. I think we're entitled to £175 a year to go towards any course, so that helped me out when I wanted to learn to drive. What's been your hardest thing at music school? Also, what's been your best gig to date? Thank you, Will. Hardest thing at music school, I'd say when I'm just sat in myself practicing and I feel like I haven't progressed in a long time. Some weeks I'd feel, I can play this piece of music now, it's been a good step up, and some weeks, some months really drag by for me, and I'd feel like it's a brand new, weird, obscure looking bassoon instrument, and I don't feel like I've progressed and met the standard which I should be. But my instructor at the school, Sergeant Jamie Gunn, and my professor, Polly Phillips, they really helped me. They could see a mile away if I was struggling, and they just, again, say things to me like, right, don't focus on the music, focus on having the right attitude first, get your head right, and don't worry, you'll get there, you've got plenty of time, just keep putting the effort in. And also you said, what's been my best gig to date? I really enjoyed MFM last year, 2019. I was playing bassoon on that, and to see all the people there and all the flashing lights and be a part of mass bands for the first time in the band was really good for me. I've also loved being part of Collingwood Band straight out of training in 2018. Like Cpl Lloyd said, at 11 o'clock he went to Switzerland and Chile, and I was lucky enough to go with him on them 2 trips. So Switzerland and Chile, they were beating retreat gigs, so I was part of cymbals and bass drum for them too. And being part of Scotland Band for the past year and a half now. We've been to Northern Ireland twice. One of them trips was with the function band, so I was just playing guitar for that for the week, and we went to various high schools around Northern Ireland, promoting what we do, promoting to students further afield and what a career will be like in the Royal Music Band service. I think we had a few more questions coming then. Do you feel starting initial training, knowing you are going to a new instrument, is harder? For me personally, no. Initial training, if you mean phase 1 training, that's obviously nothing to do with music, so we're all thrown into the deep end there. I think the people that have had experience in cadets were more comfortable because they knew how to march, and they had the little discipline nailed into them already by that point. But you're all thrown into the deep end at the start of training. No one's been there, no one in your troop will have been there before, so no one knows what it's like really. But having friends that have played their instrument in their category all their life and what they're comfortable with, and they sort of fly through musical side of training, I didn't let that sort of get to me. I thought that the standard that I had to be at by the end of training was sky high, where my friends and colleagues were at. But no, it's not a race. It's down to your own individual practice, and just having the right attitude throughout training, and then you'll meet your target. Some of the way I see it, if I can, having little to no musical experience, picking up an obscure instrument such as bassoon and passing out of training when I did on time, I feel like anyone can pick up an instrument and be at the required standard, providing they are willing to stick with it. You know, keep your friends close to you, keep the social aspect of your life strong, especially at the weekends and during your downtime, because 2 years and 8 months can seem like a long time. Any more questions? when at music school, what are the terms like? How are they scheduled? So yeah, it's like the whole band service really. Kind of like school. You know, we get a chunk of leave during summer and Christmas, and also a long weekend at midterm, so sort of the Halloween period, and also Easter period. But also to always have a band running, we can't obviously have everyone on leave at the same time, so they'll be staggered. Not sure how it works at the moment, but for me, in training, it was very similar to like what you get in school and college. Rebecca, in the train bands, what's the best piece of music you've played? I really like the small local gigs we've done in Scotland in the Fife area. For the local gigs we do in Dunfermline, sort of once a month, I'll be pushed on guitar for one number or two, mainly at the midway point of the gig, where we'll do something quite upbeat, quite rocky, or something for a finale where we'll pull the singers out, and I play a piece of music on guitar for that, just something that I'm comfortable with, and I really enjoy playing the final countdown with the solo, Led Zeppelin. Also played James Bond medley and Queen medleys quite a bit, but my favourite was probably the Led Zeppelin number, Stairway to Heaven. I started off on bassoon for that, halfway through the music, put it down, went backstage to pick up my guitar and came at the front of the stage to do the solo. And the singer at that time, when we did that gig last year, was Cpl Joley Gardiner, who you'll hear straight after me. She was singing on that Led Zeppelin number, and that was probably the favourite piece of music I played in the job so far. Next question, in the audition, you just need to play a piece of music of your choice, so anything else you need to do in it? Good question. So in my audition, I just took my guitar down to Portsmouth with me, and for the final time I was asked to play, it was actually in the concert hall on my own, rather than in the cells, sort of one-to-one with different professors. For the band service hierarchy that would have eventually accept me as a musician or not, they auditioned me as a guitar player, and I came with pieces of music I prepared, and then afterwards they asked me to play any other styles that I knew, so they knew I didn't have any sight reading knowledge, so they didn't give me any music and try and catch me out. They just said, oh, do you know any jazz, can you play any funk, oh, can you play any Pink Floyd, or Led Zeppelin, things like that. See any more questions? At what point after joining would degree studies begin? So when you start phase 2 music training, you can choose to do your degree then. As far as I'm aware, that's what some of my friends and colleagues have done. But also every year you can choose to enrol in that degree course, no matter what point in your career you're in. That's as far as I'm aware. If I'm wrong, I'm sure that's Cpl Joley Gardiner afterwards, or Cpl Amy Phillips at 12 o'clock will correct me on that. And some more highlights of my career. Let's see, with Scotland Band so far, we've also gone down to London for 2 weeks, and we did London duties, so that was giving the army bands a rest around the December period last year, and we escorted the Guard to and from Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, and that was good to walk around a different place, play music. I was on cymbals for that 2 weeks, and it was good for when it's quite a different style of parade music, where when we're at the halt waiting for the Guard to do their things, we play what we call incidental music. So we played things like Disney classics, movie themes, Hans Zimmer's favourites, Pirates of the Caribbean, things like that. We played Feel It Still, and also John Williams classics. So it's good to play very different styles, but still in a parade environment. Also another gig we did for Scotland Band, a lot of our concerts and Woodwind 5 ensembles that I'm involved in are local around Scotland, but we did one further afield. Went down to Salford earlier this year, and that was the first time my family got to come and see me in a train band, and that was a busy gig for me. I remember starting off on bassoon. Midway through the piece, I'd get my acoustic guitar out, accompanying my friend Fraser Wilkes playing a trombone solo, and then I'd get my electric guitar out, play James Bond, and then rush to play the cymbals at the back of the stage because we did a march sequence with the corps of drums, and then back on bassoon for the rest of the concert. And then the finale was the piece of music from The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, where we had our opera singer, musician Katrina Nimmo singing one of the themes from that film, and I was back on acoustic guitar for that for the finale. So I had plenty to keep me busy during concerts. What's the structure of the 3 years in phase 2? I'm not too sure about the structure now. Been out of the School of Music for nearly 2.5 years now. But Corporal Amy Phillips at 12 o'clock will be able to answer that now. But for me, phase 2 training from 2016 to 2018 was 2 years and 8 months, and they'd be split up into terms. And I'd be given a term where it's my turn to do bass drum. The next term, it's the next person's go to do bass drum, and then we'll all be on cymbals. When it comes to concert band, wind band, every bassoonist is involved, but orchestra will be one bassoon player. So myself and my colleague, who were in the same troupe together, joining up together, would alternate who gets involved in Woodwind 5 or orchestra. And then obviously you have your academic lessons which result into your final exams. So for me I had term 3 and term 6, and at the end of them terms would be your written exams based on elements and harmony, and your playing practical exams. I think they're slightly different now, but for me it was term 3 and term 6. And if you don't know what terms are, it's January to Easter is one term, Easter to summer the next term, and then summer to Christmas is your third term, and I think 7-8 terms in total will be your music training. So a quick time check. I think I've gone over my time limit now, so thank you very much for your questions, keep them coming in, and you'll have Lance Corporal Joley Gardiner to ask questions for next. Thank you very much, and see you again.
Hi everyone, I am musician Hannah Smither. I am a percussionist and vocalist. I'm currently at Her Majesty's Royal Marine Band in Plymouth, and I have been there since September last year. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself first, and then I'll try and answer as many questions as I can in the time that I've got. I've got 15 minutes, so I will try and do my very best. So I joined in 2016 primarily as a percussionist. I studied drum kit for many years before I joined up, but that was all I played really. Drum kit was my primary instrument. So going on to audition within the band service, I then got accepted as a percussionist, but along with that I had to learn a load of new instruments with that. So that entailed learning the timpani, orchestral snare drum, xylophone, marimba, vibraphones, and then all of the auxiliary percussion as well, alongside the drum kit. So with that then, on my audition, when I went in, I played the drum kit, and the professor at the School of Music, Professor Matt King, who is renowned within the percussion world, he auditioned me and kind of tested out my abilities and my techniques on the things that I hadn't played before. So with that, he then obviously accepted me joining up then in 2016 in September. Did my basic training then, and then joined at the school Christmas that year. I studied for 3 years, and through those 3 years I then was able to learn all of those new instruments. Now at the school it's incredible really, because you get all the instruments provided to you. So with that I basically went into this world of everything that was there, which meant I was able to learn everything, and I had all the sort of ability to do that around me. So at the school you then get the option to sort of experiment with other things that you want to do, so that being with ensembles really. So as a percussionist, you're kind of involved in every ensemble the band service sort of puts out really. So that will be orchestral ensembles, from smaller orchestral gigs to the bigger ones. So with that, then you could do different mess dinners, you go to bigger events really. And with that, you're kind of on your own. It's primarily a singular percussionist that will go and do that. You also get to do the likes of big band and that sort of thing, so concert band. And you then kind of over the 3 years, you again get to experiment really with what you love to do. So a guy in my troupe who was in my year, he loved doing big band stuff, and he was very, very good at big band stuff. So he gets to do a lot of that. As then being a vocalist, so I didn't actually join up as a vocalist, but I've been able to get some lessons within training, which then meant that I am now sort of classed as a vocalist without having done the exam really. So one of my best experiences, I would say, as a vocalist was to do the recent MFM and sing for the Gladiator finale, which was amazing, absolutely amazing. So with experiences then going on to sort of travelling and that sort of thing from being out in the job, I got to go to the Netherlands within sort of a month of being out in Plymouth Band, which was incredible. And obviously with COVID happened, I was due to go on a trip to Azerbaijan for vocals within the function band, but obviously COVID got in the way of that. So that's like a brief sort of introduction about me really, what I've done since being in the job, learning, and I'll go on to a few questions now, so please bring in as many questions as you want and I'll try to answer all of them for you. So one has just come up: despite learning all percussion disciplines, can you specialise in one? So really you have to learn it all for being in the band service, but you can then go on to specialise sort of within external exams. So if you wanted to go and do something specific, you can do, and the band service are very, very good at allowing you to do what you love. Obviously you have to fulfil the role that they require of you, but if you were to say, look, I absolutely love doing marimba, that's my my favourite instrument to play, they will be very good at allowing you to get up on the front, do multiple solos and that sort of thing. So they are very good at allowing you to sort of go down a specific route of something you love, but obviously you have to maintain all your other disciplines in percussion. Any advice on what kind of music to focus on if you wanted to audition as a vocalist? So my advice would be, when I did my audition as a percussionist, I also was able to go and sing for the boss at the time. And what I did personally was because I studied I studied musical theatre, I studied classical and I studied jazz. So I kind of showed everything I could do. With that, it shows your versatility as a singer, which is extremely important, I would say, within the band service to try and show really, because it enables you to become sort of able to do more different ensembles. So with function band, I do all pop genres, all the new hits, that sort of thing. And then with my jazz ensemble, jazz quartet, I get to then bring it right back down to traditional jazz. And with that, having studied all of those different styles, it's meant I've been able to use that really. When auditioning, can you audition on more than one instrument? Yes, so when I did my audition, I I had to fill in a form basically to kind of explain what I played before I joined up. So primarily drum kit, as I've mentioned before, and I said that I did vocals as well, and I did a little bit of piano before I joined. So really with that then, I went into my audition, and from them looking at that then, they kind of allowed me to then show them what I could do. The band service really want you to show them everything, because they wouldn't want you to miss out something that you can do or something that you have an ability on. So yeah, they would really appreciate you sort of writing down or telling them the amount of instruments you can play, and sort of ask the question, look, can I audition on multiple to just show you what I can do? And I'm sure they will be extremely grateful that you've brought that up, because then they'll be able to have a proper look at what you can do in your techniques. What proportion of classical and jazz is played compared to other genres? Great question. So a lot of the times you see the band service on parade or within big concert bands, but actually we do a lot of classical and a lot of jazz, primarily in smaller ensembles, so that is sort of less seen less widely, but as being a vocalist, jazz we do a lot of, and you get together with smaller groups of people, you do jazz ensembles, you often go and do gigs at dinners or at little events, that sort of thing. And classical then as well, we've obviously got our orchestra ability. So obviously people learning 2 instruments, they primarily, one is for sort of the concert band side of things, and one is then a string instrument of some sort, or something that will aid them in the orchestral world. So then within that, we then play a lot of classical music, and do many gigs which include classical music. Have you sung in a big band gig? Yes, I have. So having mentioned that I'd like to do jazz, big band is a factor of that. So I love doing big band vocals, and with that I have done many gigs then with that. So in Plymouth Band, our sort of local concerts that we do, we actually have a big band slot in every gig, and that is about a 15 to 20 minute slot, and I have sang in every big band slot with that. So I get to speak with Hierarchy or the library, and the people that sort of get the music together, and I can put in suggestions or ask to sing specific songs that I really enjoy doing through big band. So yeah, I've done many gigs with big band, and it's one of my favourite sort of gigs. Before you joined up, had you ever been part of any military groups like cadets? So personally I hadn't, but I know many people who had joined up who had been. So it actually, for me, I didn't feel like it hindered me, but also I would absolutely suggest, if you are in cadets or if you're in military groups, that will be a massive aid to you for joining up, because you have a little bit of knowledge. So I hadn't personally, but I know other people who had, and it really did help them. Let's have a look further back up to the top. Here we go. Okay, so what is my favourite genre to play on the drum kit? What I'll do is I'll mention a little bit about drum kit when you're in training. So you get to play all genres. So as I've mentioned with the ensembles, in training as a percussionist, you have to take part in every ensemble. So for me, one of my favourite genre was actually, it was in concert band really, and it was when the corps of drums would come on. It's like kind of the bigger, the big sort of introductions. So it would kind of be sort of more like rock style really. so the likes of Cpl or something like that. If you haven't heard of that, have a look after, got a nip onto YouTube and have a look at that. It's that sort of style, that it's the very loud, sort of heavy style for me. That was my favourite genre to play, really, and still is within Plymouth Band as well. Let's have a look. At any stage, would you be asked to switch to another band? So the band service have got 5 bands across the country, and with your drafts, you ideally you'd get a 2-year draft, and after that 2-year draft, you would tend to move. The band are extremely good at sort of listening to your needs within sort of where you're hoping to stay or settle down, that sort of thing. But yes, there is definitely possibilities that if you were to move to a band, you would then have to be moved elsewhere to just maintain the other band's sort of ability. When people move, obviously spaces get left, so people then have to go and fill those spaces. But the band are very good at listening to you, so don't be sort of put off by the fact you might have to move here, there and everywhere, because they're very good at listening to you. When we audition, do we get given a piece of music? So with auditions, you go in there and you show them what you can do. So you bring your music and everything that you feel comfortable playing. The professors that you're sort of auditioning in front of, they may well ask you to play a piece of sight reading or whatever, but that is not to catch you out, that is not to scare you, it is just simply to have a look at your ability and just see where you're at, really, so they can either accept you from your technical ability or put you onto a different instrument, that sort of thing. I am going to have to finish up now, but I will answer one more question. When you finish your phase 2 training, do you get given accommodation? Yes, you do. So wherever you're based on, whichever base you're on, you will get given accommodation if you don't own a home or anything. And a lot of people stay on the base that they're working in. The accommodation, you'll get your own room and that sort of thing, and you get to sort of live there. That's your home then. I'm going to be now passing on to musician Joel Madden, and he's going to answer some more of your questions. So please pop back on once I've left and ask him as many questions as you can. I'm musician Hannah Smither. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching, and thank you for sending in your questions.